Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Owner's Box. I'm Billy Koch, founder and managing partner of Little Red Feather Racing Club. Joining me with her hair up today, which is always fantastic, Michelle. You,
Which means it
uh,
won't stay that way.
it's going to change 16 times before the end of the
Mhm.
show. We have a really fun show for you guys today. First of all, the Sarge is joining us, Nick Hines.
Hoorah!
Hoorah! To talk all about my racehorse. They've been red hot lately.
Not only that, but the Sarge has he's his own owner.
Sarge is
He's
his own owner.
Battleborn Racing. And so we're going to talk to him about that too.
All right, we're going to get to the Sarge in a minute. We're going to talk about all of the race recap. Quite a weekend, Michelle. We should probably start there, but just stay tuned with us because we're going to do something fun. I mentioned it last week. We're going to do this draft thing. We'll explain it to you in a minute. With the Kentucky Derby coming up, we thought it'd be fun to do a little draft. We're going to take today's draft is going to be from 1970 to 1989. I'll explain it all in a minute, but let's do the recaps of the weekend because we had some big Kentucky Derby preps. The San Vicente, Michelle, journalism.
San Felipe.
San Felipe. I don't know why I wrote down San Vicente. San Felipe journalism was unbelievable.
Unreal. He was unreal.
Yeah, owned by a group including Eclipse Thoroughbreds, who we're going to get to a lot today. Michelle, at the top of the lane, did you think Barnes, the $3.2 million Bob Baffert undefeated colt, had any chance of losing?
Okay, at the top of the lane, I saw journalism. But if you would ask me right before they turned for home, because journalism kind of like went backwards a bit, I was like, oh, he wasn't ready for today. And I'm like, here comes Barnes. And then all of a sudden, journalism was like, okay, here we go. And just started motoring.
It's so rare that you see a Bob Baffert trainee get caught like that, especially he didn't set extremely fast fractions.
Yeah.
There wasn't a ton of pace pressure. It was just like, I've seen that race a million times and he's won 999,999 of them. So for journalism to do what he did, I think stamps him right now as the Kentucky Derby favorite.
So you prefer him over Sovereignty?
Well, we're going to get there in a minute. But yeah, I kind of do. I just know that listen, when you take Santa Anita and you take Baffert and you have a horse like Barnes who ran a 105 buyer and you run him down and blow him away and blow past him when it wasn't really even a great setup for you. I take that. Yeah. And Mike McCarthy, we're going to talk about him, I'm sure, a lot today. I just thought it was a fantastic job. Umberto Rispoli, I'm very happy for him and his agent, Matt Nakatani, to be on a horse of this caliber that right now has stamped himself as the early Derby favorite.
I mean, I feel like watching him last year, he was bred to be a good horse, right? He's by Curlin. He's out of a grade 1 winner in Mopetism, who was by Uncle Mo. They paid a decent amount of money for him. And I remember his debut.
$850.
850, yeah. So he had been training so well, and then he got beat, but you could just tell, you're like, all that horse needs is 2 turns. I mean, he was just coming late. He just, they outfooted him early and he was rolling. I actually love the fact they got beat first time out because I feel like it just makes him more of like a real horse. You know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah. And it just shows, nowadays it's so difficult to be patient and develop these horses. And it's people, especially new owners to the game, a lot of whom listen to our show, that a horse, just because he doesn't win first time out, doesn't Derby. I mean, there's just like, you have to have patience in this game. And congratulations once again to Mike McCarthy and his team. Journalism.
Let me give you the full ownership list. That is Bridlewood Farm, Don Alberto, Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners, Elaine Stables 5 LLC, and Bob LaPenta. And he did run in the silks of Bob LaPenta, so that was really cool to see. I feel like anytime we see Bob LaPenta silks now, it's almost like a throwback feel.
It's cool,
right?
It's cool. Yeah, okay, I like those silks.
On the other coast, okay. Yes. No, first of all, real quick, do you think Barnes has a chance to improve with the route under his belt?
Absolutely.
I think he's green still.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that he can only get better. I think he's going to be, I mean, like if it was up to me, he'd probably be the second choice in the Derby. Like I look forward to the Santa Anita Derby now with those two coming back.
And
Beza.
Gosh.
I read something that Baffert might ship to Arkansas with Barnes, so we'll see what happens. But the rematch would be special, and I like that there's some really good 3-year-olds, even the little colt that everyone's rooting for from Arkansas.
Coal Battle.
Coal Battle. Like I feel like this year it's a really good group. Really good group.
I feel like part of that has to do with the readmittance of Bob Baffert, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
last couple of years when he wasn't able to run at Churchill, and we felt like all of a sudden he would win the preps, but he didn't get the points, so they were watered down and everything. And now he's back in there, and now we're getting to see like, hey, there are horses as good as his horses, and we know like where they level up. I
Yep.
feel like,
Level Up. Great
so
name. That's a good
I
name for
like
a
it.
horse.
Level Up.
Yeah, going to the other coast, we're talking about the Fountain of Youth. We're talking about Sovereignty, who from everybody before the race was saying he's not ready. He's coming off a
Yeah.
layoff, but it's Bill Mott, it's Godolphin, it's Junior Alvarado. We've seen this story before, and this horse ran a monster race.
I cannot believe he got up. My jaw hit the floor. I was hoping he needed a race.
Yeah, he was going really fast late. You know what I mean? He was like really motoring home, and like journalism a little bit. He's going to need some pace. He came from well out of it the other day. And I like this horse. I think he's another really top class thoroughbred 3-year-old that's going to make his presence felt this spring in these Triple Crown races. Take nothing away from River Thames. He kind of looked like he pulled up once he made the lead.
Yeah, I felt like he was super green.
It's very green. And these horses have like 3 starts. Like they're going to get better. They're going to improve. A little disappointed in the favorite Burnham Square. I have to say, I know a lot of people were really high on him. He looked a little flat to me. Didn't really, but he still ran 3rd. He's still learning.
He ran 4th.
Oh, he ran 4th. I'm sorry. I like this crop. I remember last year at this time when you and I talked, we were like, we really didn't have anybody. Like we were talking about Stronghold, and it's like
who won the Derby last year, right? Like,
Mystic Dan. Like I feel like Mystic Dan, with all due respect, is the kind of horse like Journalism, Sovereignty, Barnes, Cornucopian. We'll get to see him. I mean, that horse looked like an absolute monster. So really good week for the 3-year-old. And then later you got the Kilroe Mile, which Mike McCarthy takes again, and Rispoli takes again, which is an unbelievable ride on Formidable Man, who had won the Grade 1 Hollywood Derby and then had just a nightmare, terrible trip in the Pegasus, which is turning into a key race, by the way.
Yes.
Congratulations once again to, I think it's I want to say the Williamson. Who's the Pink Silks? I just totally blanked.
Yes.
Did I get it right? No, I think I got it wrong.
Formidable Man's out of Fantacola.
Yes.
The Warrens.
The Warrens, yes.
William
out of Fantacola, who was named after Tony Fantacola, our very good friend who we have dinner, the magician.
And we had him on the show before.
We had him on the show. And
double A+ Trinick. And then he's by City of Light, whom Michael McCarthy trained.
And they owned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So congratulations. And then
I didn't even realize his pedigree there.
Couple of
I felt like
later,
Hermano Ramon was probably the disappointing horse in there, but I feel like every time you want to like him and he's just like not good enough, and it kills me.
I don't think he is that top level. I thought Pratt was way too patient. Very rarely do I say that Pratt's too patient, but I think Pratt was a little patient. I think Rispoli got the jump on him and saved all the ground. They were kind of even, and Pratt had to go outside and Rispoli went inside, and that was all the difference. And then the Big Cap,
I got chills thinking about the Big Cap.
This lot turned into an absolute freak of nature once again.
Now that's what we expected to see from him in the Pegasus, right?
And he kind of did run like that in the Pegasus. He just was too far back, and there wasn't really the pace to come get White Abario. White Abario just had the perfect trip. Locked kind of stumbled again at the starter. He was well back. This time, he was just so much the best. He laid over that field. He was a huge favorite anyway. But how good did
Express Train run in defeat?
He ran really well. No match for Locke, but he ran
well.
No
match for Locke. Not even the same zip code.
No. But what I do like is, and we talked about the Saudi race. I mean, you have horses like Locked. You have horses like Romantic Warrior. You have horses like the winner.
Forever to get Forever Young.
You have now, and then you have this
Sierra Leone,
who we haven't seen. Then you have this really good group of 3-year-olds. White Abario. I mean, the Breeders' Cup Classic right now, if you could just kind of put everyone in a bubble and have them just do well the rest of the year, it's going to be an amazing race, the Breeders' Cup Classic. That's something I'm looking for.
Romantic Warrior is not running in the Breeders' Cup Classic, though.
Well, maybe he'll run on the turf. All right, so Now we're going to do something fun. We've never done this
Okay.
before. So I listen to the Ringer podcast network. If any of you have ever heard it, they do sports, they do entertainment. There's a show called The Big Picture. And it's a really fun show. And they do these drafts. They do movie drafts. They did last week. They did an Academy Award draft, and they go through different eras and they do a draft. Now, normally it's with more people. So if we do this in the future, we might maybe have more people. It's not just two. So what we said is we're going to start doing Kentucky Derby drafts. And we made 5 categories. They are Hall of Fame, 3-year-old champion, the long shot, a horse that was the best but didn't win the Derby, and then you get a wild card. So there's 5 rounds, and you have to pick one of the horses from 1970 to 1989. So there's 20 horses to choose from. Michelle, we had to do homework. This is the first time I've ever done homework for the show. I was kind enough to give Michelle the first pick because I didn't want her to study too hard, and I have a feeling I know who it is. So, Michelle, you have to take your pick and then decide what category that horse goes into. We'll turn it over to you.
So I think in that time frame, the best Kentucky Derby winner was Secretariat.
That was the obvious pick. Where are you?
I am gonna stick him in my Hall of Fame category.
Hall of Fame category. So that's Secretariat. For those of you, I mean, I think if you're listening, you probably know who Secretariat is. But I actually printed out a little thing, Michelle. He's pretty much.
I thought we could maybe show his Kentucky Derby.
Oh, I mean, listen. He's basically the greatest racehorse of all time. He won the 1973 Triple Crown. Owned by.
Here's a fun fact. It was on my birthday, May 3rd, just years before I was born. But this year the Derby is also on May 3rd.
There you go. Owned by Meadow Stable, trained by Lucien Lauren, and ridden by Ron Turcotte. Big Red. There's that great story that his heart was the biggest heart they've ever seen.
3 times the size of a normal horse heart.
By the way, I almost just start crying.
That is my son's favorite movie to watch right now, by the way. And on his little fake horse, I have to call Secretariat about 17 times a day. And if I screw up the race call, he yells at me.
159-2 is the fastest Derby ever. Then he
okay. Oh, I have a fun
fact
for you.
Go ahead.
Who ran the second fastest Kentucky Derby? Oh, whatever.
I'm a historian, Michelle. All right. So now we're going to do a snake draft. So
So you don't want to see Secretariat's Kentucky Derby?
No, people have seen it.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So I have a snake draft. So I have 2 also very obvious picks here because there were 3 Triple Crown winners in this era that we're talking about. So my big decision is who do I pick second and who do I pick third? And I thought about this all day. I'm going to put Seattle Slew in my Hall of Fame category. The Slew won the Kentucky Derby in 1977, also won the Triple Crown, and actually as an older horse beat my third pick, which is going to be affirmed as an older horse. So I put Seattle Slew in my Hall of Fame. I put affirmed in my 3-year-old champion category. Affirmed, both these horses for the era. I mean, I'm born in 69, so I'm 8 and 9 years old when these 2 horses ran through, and I was a total psycho. I love Seattle Slew so much. I went and saw him at Hollywood Park. He lost that day to J.O. Tobin, which was one of the, I was crying in the car on the way home. I couldn't understand that Seattle Slew lost. I think he was 1-9. And then to talk about affirmed, that those Harborview Farm silks, those pink silks, and Laz Barrera, Steve Coffin won that day. The kid, and both those horses just have special places in my heart, and they're going to make a very formidable team, Michelle. So I'm interested. Now it's going to get interesting because I think those 3 are the 3 Triple Crown winners. Now it's going to get interesting where you go in your next pick. You have 2. You have 2.
My next pick is 3-year-old champion.
Yeah.
And I went Sunday Silence.
You went Sunday Silence. Interesting. Why Sunday Silence there?
So Sunday Silence is getting into close to when I started being into racing, but he was still a little bit before my time. But I remember right when I was getting into it, I used to subscribe to Reader's Digest.
Yeah.
And every month they would have this little excerpt of a story, right? And one month it was Sunday Silence's story. And so it was a quick 5-page synopsis of Sunday Silence and the battle with Easygoer. And I just remember the last line of the story. It was, and for one final delightful time, Sunday Silence beat him.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I'm getting teary-eyed. Like just like thinking about that, it always gave me goosies. And so like, you know, not to mention the way he has completely changed the breed, right? Which is fantastic. But I love a knock-kneed, ugly ass horse that no one wanted, that was mean, and he just ends up being a gutty old racehorse. The showdown with Easy Goer, where he's pure blue blood and beautiful and fantastic. So for me, the
great pick. Arthur Hancock and partner Charlie Whittingham, the jockey on the Derby for Sunday Silence.
Billy, also, what are you putting paper on your computer?
Yeah, it's loud.
It makes, yes, it's very loud.
I just want to make a couple things about Sunday Silence really quick. 14 starts, 9 wins, 5 seconds. Over 4.9 million in earnings. He was the 1989 Horse of the Year. So that's Sunday Silence. Great pick, Michelle.
You know he almost died twice?
No, I didn't know that.
When he was a weanling, he had a freak viral attack and almost died. And then when he was 2, he was in the horse van and the driver had a heart attack and the van flipped over.
Oh, amazing. Wow. Crazy
Did you know that?
I didn't know that. But you have another pick. So you have 3 categories left. You have long shot, a horse that didn't win the Derby, and your wild card. Where are you going?
So I have like a terrible thing to say. I could not find a long shot.
Well, I found 2.
Well, I'll have to steal one of yours. I was going to go 2 of my best not to wins instead of a long shot because I didn't have a long shot.
No.
Who was a long? Tell me some long shots because there's not charts available.
You take your pick.
Okay.
I'll give you the 2 long shots. You want the 2 long shots?
Yeah.
There were 2 of them. Okay. One was Gato del Sol.
Okay.
In 1982.
82, yeah.
And the other one, because I'll have to take, because there was really only the 2. These are the 2. The other one was Genuine Risk.
Was she a long shot?
13-1.
Then I'll take her because she was actually one of my wild cards.
Okay. All right.
So, I'll take her for my long shot. Yeah, because there's no chart. So it was like, how do you find out how much how big of odds they were?
ChatGPT.
Oh, nice.
Genuine Risk was one of only 3 fillies ever to win the race. She was 13-1 in 1980. I have all the paperwork here. She was owned by Diana Firestone, Leroy Jolly trained, and Jacinto.
And she was bred by Mrs. G. Watts Humphrey.
Yep, and Jacinto Vasquez in the irons. And
they kind of made fun of her when she came around because she was so flashy. She was chestnut with like a big white face, and they're like, "Oh, this horse can't be a racehorse, right?" And then she went pretty much undefeated until she faced the boys in the Wood Memorial when she ran 3rd, but she came right back to win the Kentucky Derby.
Wow. So I have an interesting dilemma here because I'm not going to take my long shot because I'm going to end up taking one. But so I'm going to take my best loser. And there's 2.
I have 3. I have 3 of the best losers.
Okay. You've mentioned 1.
Okay.
And you have Sunday Silence. So do you have that? I have to decide. Hold on. So hold on. I have to really think about this right now. All right. This doesn't make for great radio. All right. Since I took
wait, I'm going to make this easy for you.
What?
My best not to win is not actually the best horse. It's one of my favorite horses.
It's one of your favorite horses. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to make, because I have affirmed, I'm going to take Alydar.
Alydar? Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to take Alydar, who just was constantly heartbroken by affirmed. Finally got his revenge at some point in his career. Yeah. And in the breeding shed, Alydar was so good. That big kind of, he was like a dark chestnut. He was almost like a liver chestnut. I'm a big fan of Alydar. So that's my horse that didn't get it. So now I have a wild card. And
now wait. Did you know that when they were retired, the 2 of them were next door to each other? Like they were across the way from each other. So they stared at each other all the time.
I did know that. Okay. I did know that. All right. I got my wild card.
Okay.
My wild card might be the most talented racehorse in history.
You're going to say Spectacular Bid.
I am going to say Spectacular. Just a couple of historical notes about Spectacular Bid. Not only did he win the Derby that in what year was it? 1979.
Mhm.
Obviously won the Preakness, and then had that crazy Belmont where he stepped on attack and trainer Buddy Delp, couldn't made the excuse. Ronnie Franklin was the rider. Hawksworth Farm was the owner of Spectacular Bid. His 4-year-old year, he went 9 for 9, and his final race was the walkover, which I can't remember if it's happened since. I don't know if it was.
Well, I know that Wayne Lucas had someone that was a walkover.
Oh, did he? Okay, so I'm taking Spectacular Bid as my wild card.
In the
Was it? Are you looking it up right now?
Yeah, he did have a walkover, and it was like a rainy day, and everyone scratched, and they told him just don't fall off.
You have 2 more categories. You have your wild card, and you have your favorite horse that's the loser. So you're not going to take Easy Goer.
I'm not going to take Easy Goer.
Who are you taking?
He's on my list. Don't get me wrong. Now, I have Alidar, Sham, Easy Goer, and the horse I'm going to pick on my list.
I can't wait to hear
But I'm going to go to a different horse.
Okay.
It's Best Pal. I love Best Pal. That is when I was first getting into racing. It was 1991, and that was like the first horse I like.
Wait, who did he lose to?
Oh, it's not. Oh,
it's crap!
I was only to 89.
Yeah, only to 89.
Oh man. Okay.
Yes.
All right, just to erase that whole segment right there.
Okay, we're gonna take that segment out. You got to take. So now you can go back to Easy Goer or Sham.
Okay.
I think.
Or Sham.
Yeah.
Or Sham, right?
Yeah.
Golly.
It's not making for good radio for people listening when you're not talking.
I know. I actually kind of want to say Sham.
Okay, Sham. Fair enough. Sham was the runner-up in basically every race to Secretariat in history, right? He just kept running second.
I mean, if there was no Secretariat, Sham would have been a champion any other year of his life.
Hey, now you can't take Easy Goer here because your wild card has to be a Kentucky Derby winner. So who are you taking in your final spot?
My wild card, my intention was always to take a filly. So I'm going to end up with Winning Colors.
So you have 2 fillies.
I have 2 fillies in here, and that wasn't by design. Originally, I was going to go Winning Colors over Genuine Risk, and Genuine Risk moved into my long shot.
Right. Okay.
But
Eugene Klein and those famous Charger Silks, Dwayne Lucas, Gary Stevens. I was there in the infield for the Winning Colors win.
In the Kentucky Derby?
At the Kentucky Derby, yep.
No way.
Yes, that was my first ever Kentucky Derby. I took a bus from Northwestern, told everybody and their mother to bet on Winning Colors, and we all made money. We all had the exacta. Like, it was incredible. Wow. We had the greatest day. It was the most beautiful day at the Derby. I was in the infield I was right on the turn for home, so I could see when she started extending her lead, and I was like, oh my God, we were going crazy.
I mean, that's why she's good, right? Because she was a front runner. She was beautiful in gray. Yep. She was dynamic. I think the field she beat also was tremendous. She won the Santa Anita Oaks and the Santa Anita Derby like 3 weeks apart, right? Yep. Like, I mean, she was awesome.
She was awesome.
All right, my deserves the wild card.
I am going to take Gato del Sol, who is one of my favorite winners. He was actually, I think I might have made it wrong. He was 21-1 in 1982. Woo! Gato del Sol.
I only know him because he won on my birthday.
Arthur Hancock III, and Leon Peters, and the great Eddie Gregson trained.
Wow, really?
Excuse me, and the great. I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. Oh gosh. Excuse me.
Bless you.
I've never done that before. Eddie Delahousse, one of my favorites. Probably one of my top 5, I would say, riders of all time. We used to call him Eddie G because he would just bring home the money. And the great story about Eddie D is that the other riders could hear him. Did you ever hear these stories?
No.
So, like, if Eddie had horse,
was he like a mouth breather?
He would grind. He'd be like, yeah, and they'd know. They'd like, oh, Eddie D. He was the greatest judge of pace of any rider. because Eddie D could be on the front, he could be in the back, and usually he came from behind. That was his like trademark. But when he got in the lead, he had these great hands, and he would just relax the horse, and you'd think he was done, and then he'd come back. I mean, he was the rider of AP Indy, who maybe we'll talk about one day. But great job, Michelle. Let's just read the teams. So, do you want to start with Hall of Fame? You read your team.
So Hall of Fame, I'm Secretariat and Billy's Seattle Slew. 3-year-old champion.
No, stop. Just read yours.
Oh, just read mine. Oh, sorry. My Hall of Fame horse is Secretariat.
Yep.
My 3-year-old champion is Sunday Silence. My long shot is Genuine Risk. My best horse not to win was Sham. And my wild card pick is Winning Colors.
Very nice. Very nice. My Hall of Fame horse is Seattle Slew. My 3-year-old champ is Affirmed. My long shot is Gato del Sol. My best horse not to win was Alidar. And my wild card was Spectacular Bid. I have to say, Michelle, I think my team will kill yours.
No way.
Yeah, you got to post it.
I got to post it. Yeah, we got to post it.
We're going to post it and let people vote. And then on our next show, we'll do 1990 through 2009.
And can one of the categories has to be like best cowbred?
We'll do best cowbred for Michelle. All right, we'll take a quick break. We hope you like that. That was super fun.
I love that. Was so fun. That was so fun.
All right, so we're going to get Sarge right after. We got to just take a break and get a Sarge on. So we'll be right back. All right, we're back. I have gone from water to Heineken. Michelle
I'm still drinking Crown, but I'm in my pajamas now.
Michelle has put on her PJs, and we're going to bring in Nick Hines. The Sarge, where are you, Sarge? Where are you, Sarge? There he is.
A tin hut. I'm actually in everybody's favorite place in the world.
Slocala?
Yeah.
No. Are you at the WEC Center?
Oh, come on, man. Only
Billy gets to
stay there. We're staying at the Candlewood Suites. We're trying to keep the budget constrained here, if you will.
Hey, I'm going to be there on Monday.
Beautiful.
I'll be there.
At the Candlewood or Ocala?
At the Candlewood. At the Candlewood.
There you go. You have someone to hang out with. Well, listen, we know it's late, and we appreciate you joining us today. My racehorse has been red hot, and a lot of it is because of you, Sarge. We're going to give you some credit here. We know you're going to give other people credit, but when this thing started a long time ago now, you were instrumental, and I think on behalf of Michelle and myself and everybody else who's listening, congratulations on all your success.
Well, now, first of all, thank you for that. And as the saying goes, it takes a village. I mean, quite frankly, when Michael Behrens came up with this concept with the micro shares, clearly it was keeping that particular kind of fantasy owner. I mean, because this is really what it boils down to.
Sure.
Someone that would hope that one day they could own a racehorse, but they weren't sure if they could afford it. So it kind of led into the idea that there was some affordability to it with the micro shares. And, this dates back to 2018 ish. At the time it was Joe Mishak, Gina Cervantes, she had been with Michael with the company that he had was a CEO of prior to in Casper Mattress, and then Joe Mishak. So, basically started in an office in Claremont, California, and it's evolved into, just a global success.
Yeah, it's really the trajectory. And look, there's been bumps along the way. I mean, we know that B. Wayne Hughes was very instrumental at the beginning and doing a lot of stuff with Spendthrift, and he really got it off the ground. But then obviously we lost him, and that was a devastating day for all of us, including everybody in the horse racing industry. But now, it seems like since that time, when there was like, oh gosh, what's going to happen to my racehorse? You've kicked it into another gear. Why do you think this kind of turn with horses like Seize the Gray, with horses like Straight No Chaser?
I think a lot of it has to do with luck. Clearly, patience is a big part of it. I mean, you kind of look back at Straight No Chaser. He's 6 years of age now. And, we purchased him in a 2-year-old in training sale, 4 years ago at Timonium, Maryland. I think a lot of it comes down to, Michael's a visionary. And essentially, when this goes back to 2018 and, the introduction was made to a Wayne Hughes, I'd had, a little bit of a relationship with Ned Toffee at the time. And I'd called some other big names in the industry. And when the idea kind of presented itself, quite frankly, they kind of laughed it off. So Wayne was the one that seized the moment And, clearly this is something that he had already constructed and putting forth in Australia. So I think what it really comes down to, and clearly with the Kentucky Derby win pandemic year in 2020 with Authentic, just a crazy story, because the fact that, that conversation came down to 2 horses, Authentic and 1,000 Words. And if you recall that particular Kentucky Derby, they were both in the race. 1,000 Words flipped in a paddock and scratched. I kind of hearken it back to Penny Chenery, the Secretariat story.
We talked about her on the show. We talked about Secretariat tonight on the show. Yes.
I love that. So it wasn't so much a coin toss or a coin flip, if you will, but as luck and fate would have it, Authentic went to become horse of the year. And, granted, if the Derby were held in May that year, I'd have to say that Tiz the Law would have had the distinct advantage.
You never know. You don't know. You don't know.
Oh, no, Authentic really needed that extra time. He was so green.
Absolutely. There's no doubt. So I think a lot of it just comes down to, again, I think passion for the game. And, Billy, you've been very successful with Little Red Feather. And, of course, a lot of it was, founded on a dream. And thankfully, you've had the right support system, as has my racehorse. I mean, we've got the amount of subscribers that we have now, is well beyond 50,000. And it's not only a domestic, given operation with my racehorse, has turned global. And we've had really good success in Australia. It's taken a little while for United Kingdom to kind of get going. So it's been a little bit of stop and start. But as far as why, I think a lot of it comes down to the faith that Michael has. I mean, we go into these sales, whether it be a yearling sale or a 2-year-old training sale, and he said, "Go find some fast horses." I don't
the best kind,
right? And I don't really feel with him, and again, there have been a few different individuals that have been with the company that are no longer with us. Clearly Joe Moran, as you both know, he's like a little brother to me that has ascended. He's got a keen eye for a horse, and he's to me, he's the genuine article. The one thing I appreciate about him, I've got about 24 years on him now, is that he's a no nonsense guy. And for me, I've always been a kind of a people pleaser, in a sense that, despite the fact that if someone does me wrong, and maybe that's just a teaching of my faith, to turn the other cheek. This is a difficult game because people take advantage of you all the time. And I think that the one thing that I appreciate most about my racehorse is that, everything is transparent. We've got the who's who, of course, in the social media world. We know who those people are, and they'll try to pick apart the company. I think ultimately at the end of the day, hey, if you've got questions, the answers are right there if you want them.
Well, and I know Michelle has a question, but Michelle, let me finish that thought, because Sarge kind of went there. It is interesting because I get that all the time too. Look, no one has to invest in my racehorse or Little Red Feather or anybody for that matter. We talked a lot about Eclipse today, and that the day they had at Santa Anita the other day. No one has to invest. As long as you're transparent, the people know what they're getting into. You don't have a gun to their head. Like, they can invest. And unless you have 50,000 subscribers, that's something to be very proud of. And most of them, I'm sure, are, even if their horse is not a success, you're giving them an experience that they can talk about for the rest of their lives. Am I off base there at all, Nick?
No, you hit the nail on the head. And I think the other point is that, for example, when you look back at Straight No Chaser, clearly when we purchased him, look, anytime I buy a horse, I'm hoping for the best, whether it be a California bred, and Michelle and I are in a bidding war. If I get the horse, great. If Michelle gets the horse, I want the horse to go on and do well. But, in case of Straight No Chaser, and the story's been well documented. I mean, initially that was an Andrew Lerner trainee. Wayne had set up what he felt needed to be the experiential side, hire a young trainer that's an up and comer, give him a chance with a 6-figure horse. And, unfortunately, the horse had a minor setback that summer. And Andrew said, "Hey, I think you got a really nice horse here. Let's turn him out for 90 days. And then Andrew retired. Dan Blacker took over, and the rest is history. Amazing. Which, God has a plan for all of us. So I think that to purchase a ticket, the way I look at it, it's like purchasing a concert ticket. When you buy a micro share, it was $166. Michelle, Billy, how many concerts have you been to? You spent probably 4 times that amount.
Michelle goes to a lot of concerts. I don't go to as many.
I also own shares of my racehorses, just so you
There you
guys
go.
know.
See, I mean, it's all in the family. But the reality is that with a horse, I mean, clearly there are horses that may only run one time. Some may never make a race, but ultimately, for a horse like Straight No Chaser, you purchased that one time, $166 all inclusive, and how many times you had an opportunity to go watch him race?
Wait. How about, just to jump in on that? You guys got 2 tickets to Saudi for the owners, and Joe obviously came. You guys raffled off to one of his partners an all expenses paid trip to the Saudi Cup. That guy, I met him. I don't remember his name. He had the best time. He was interviewed. He was all over. I mean, he lived the life that week.
Go ahead, Nick.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say one more thing. What people may not know about my racehorse is a lot of people don't just buy $166 share. You can buy 10 shares. You can buy 20 shares. You can buy 50 shares. If you really want to make a substantial investment, you can. Am I correct? I'm correct, right?
As long as there's shares available, you can literally buy as many as you want. And
my share was only $99 for my horse.
Right? So really, it's just ironic because of the fact that there are 2 individuals that did get involved with Straight No Chaser. They're the nicest guys, and they bought multiple shares. And in fact, one of them actually bought increased shares on Seize the Gray, which to have a Seize the Gray and Straight No Chaser, I mean, the last 12 months has been pretty much kind of a dream run. And, speaking of Seize the Gray, that was the Saratoga sale. Roderick Walkman, who was previously with us, he went up there to Saratoga with Joe. And, we purchased a few others out of the sale. They didn't quite work out as we had hoped, but we see this all the time. And Michelle, Billy, you can attest. Billy, obviously, when it started way back in the beginning with Don Chatlos and the work and job that he did with Singletary.
Yep.
But I think you try and put these horses with certain trainers in hopes that it will work out. We can sit here and talk about the likes of Zenyatta and John Sheriffs and the likes of Art Sherman and California Chrome. And in the case of Seize the Gray, a lot of that doing once that horse got in a rhythm was Wayne Lucas. And, clearly you're hoping that, when you purchase these horses, they have the constitution to stand up to a given program. And I think we can all agree that if it's not Bob Baffert, it's Wayne Lucas that are arguably the 2 hardest trainers on horses. I mean, it's Todd Pletcher you can throw into that mix as well. So it really came down to Seize the Gray essentially was willing to take on each test. I mean, he passed the litmus test from the get-go, but for him to win the Pate Mile, wheel back in the Preakness and do what he did.
Incredible.
It is. But what's insane is that when you go back and look at sheet numbers and you talk about a competitor, I mean, he's had an incredible run at stud already. He's booked over 175 mares in his first season at Gainesway. And, the entire team doing a tremendous job there. Mr. Beck, has been very accommodating, and, Brian Gray's instrumental. And they've been very supportive of Seize the Gray. So
amazing. It's a great story.
It is. And then this year, of course, we have Caldera. How he got beat in the Sunland Park Derby, I don't know. But he ran a 6.5 on the rags.
Amazing.
Which is one of the fastest numbers, of course, of the Derby, and he'll go in the Louisiana Derby. So back to the point I made is that Wayne Lucas, if you would have approached him 20 years ago with this idea, good luck.
No chance.
Right.
No chance. I know, Michelle, you had a question.
Oh, sorry. I want to go back just real quick for our fans that haven't been acquainted with you. Can you give us just a real quick synopsis of how you got into racing?
Oh, well.
Wow. You're going way back.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone sees Sarge and they watch him on TV, but do you ever sit down and be like, well, I came to the track with my grandpa? Like, I feel like a lot of people might not know where Sarge came from.
I don't know.
I grew up in Las Vegas. My father was an attorney. He was a trainer by trade, I guess, in a sense, because he moved from Indiana to Las Vegas in 1948. He actually was instrumental in a racetrack that was built there and right around 1981, 82 Las Vegas Downs. Unfortunately, they ran out of financing, but he was Nevada State Race Commissioner a couple of years in the state of Nevada. We used to run horses up in Ely and Elko.
Ely.
Yeah. Good times, right? Got some property up there in case you want to revisit.
The same hotel is still in Ely. There's not another one yet.
I believe that. So we, to be quite honest, I mean, I grew up in that, and grew up on a ranch and around just about every animal that you can imagine. A couple of great American black bears, and We actually had a Bengal tiger that stayed at the ranch for a time. And my mother, she was an animal lover. She wasn't really big on horse racing, probably because she saw the enormous and expensive owning racehorses my father had to contend with. So I was basically reading a racing forum when I was 8 years old. And when I was that young, I wanted to be a race caller. I wanted to be a track announcer.
You've got a great voice.
Well, thank you, Billy. Got a great face for radio too, by the way. Just kidding. So it evolved. And, unfortunately, I lost my father when I was 14. Ironically, was killed in a horse riding accident. And it altered my life in a positive way towards horses. Because I actually had a fear of horses when I was young. But it's really strange because after he passed, my whole perspective on what I wanted to do in the racing game focused on horses. So at that point, my mother said, all right, get through college. My first year I went to UNLV. I was on a music scholarship and journalism, studied broadcast journalism, and I transferred to Kansas at St. Mary's.
What kind of music?
I played trumpet.
Really?
Yeah.
Look at the thing we're learning about Sarge. This is unreal.
We're finding out a lot of stuff. Great question, Michelle.
19 years of playing the trumpet, and I was a top brass instrumentalist in the state of Nevada in high school.
Wow.
I was a finalist in McDonald's All-American Band, but that's what my mother wanted me to do. She was my mother danced in the Folies Bergère. Incidentally moved to Las Vegas from Germany in 1958, married my father in 1960. My dad got into the game through J.K. Housel Sr., who basically had the third gaming license. I believe it was the third gaming license in the state of Nevada. He started the Tropicana, the Showboat. His partner and J.K. Housel Jr. started the Union Plaza, which is now the Plaza Hotel.
Wow.
So a lot of roots there in Vegas.
Yeah.
But mother, she said, you get your college degree, you can do whatever you want. And I came back out west and, I worked for Bob Hess. I think Bob Hess Jr. for 4 years. We won 4 training titles. Started with, I think he had 8 or 9 horses. And when I left, we had 72.
Wow.
Some of the greatest memories. But Bob was a real comer then. And he's still one hell of a trainer.
He's on fire right now.
Yeah,
Okay, well, the logical question is, I always thought there was some kind of Army background. So there's the Sarge is the nickname. It has nothing to do with the Army or anything.
It does not. Well, my father was Lieutenant Colonel in the Marine Corps. He fought on the Pacific Theater. He fought at Iwo Jima right at the end of the war. Mount Suribachi, he was, further down the line there. But so it's a crazy story real quick. The Sarge basically came from 2 people, Kurt Hoover and Bob Ike. And then eventually Mike Willman stepped in. I love all 3 guys, for different reasons. But it was the time when I was working for Bob Hess, unfortunately I don't have the pictures here, but back then I had a flat top haircut and we were literally winning everything under the sun. And one day, right. So then Bob Ike kind of pointed out that, see that guy right there? They always alluded to the point that I was carrying a bag, right? When you're in racing, you're winning. People assume that you're doing something nefarious, which is utterly wrong. But so it was actually Bob Ike and Kurt that came up with the Sarge moniker. And I'd always wanted it, my racing colors, because of my father, and I'm a patriot at heart, and God bless this country. And I certainly hope that we can march forward. But red, white, and blue was always going to be my color motif, and the initials NH cut out of the American flag. And then I had Karen Keeshan, fast colors. Michelle, I had her make this American flag blanket. Thing cost me about $600. Oh. And I think that Eric Eo probably stashed it somewhere in a locker.
Probably.
And then that's, fast forward, when I stepped out of training, they named the horse Salute the Sarge. And, but so I was not in the military, and I've had conversations with people, and clearly there are a few out there in the social media world. They claim wrongdoing or whatnot, but Tom Knust, I mean, he's certainly a hero in his own right. I once had a conversation with him. And I said, how do you feel about that? He goes, Nick, I love it. Keep doing what you do.
About the fact that they just call you the Sarge?
I like the fact that you're very respectful about it.
Who is complaining about your nickname?
Thankfully, you do not swim around the social media airwaves as much as others. But
okay, now
I thought it was, but also wait, Michelle, because when Sarge would win, and I remember there's that famous Hollywood Park. It was probably a Thursday, and he wins, and he's just coming down, saluting the whole thing. And that's for me, I think some people might see that as obnoxiousness or like, but that's not like when you win a race.
Look at you.
I go crazy. I lose my mind.
Really almost broke the
Look
ground.
at her. It's kind of an out of body experience. And
100%.
It's crazy because when TVG kind of punched along, was it right around 98, 99? And it's crazy to think. I mean, obviously Michelle and I had worked together. And by the way, Michelle, congratulations on your global affair in the network area. You're doing a tremendous job.
Thank you.
I'm partly jealous, but I'm not jealous of the travel that you have to take. And as I said, face for radio. But at any rate, so my mother, God rest her soul, she's been gone about 12 years. She really appreciated the fact when I got the job with TVG, because, that back then you had the Dish Network and you could watch it. She just watched it and it was a way for us to communicate. But funny because they had the Sarge cam and, Tony Olivato and Michelle, you can attest, he did so much for me, which I'm sure he did for you and taught me a lot, but going to work with TVG and now being still with FanDuel TV has been an absolute, it's been a privilege, to be able to talk horses and get paid for it.
I want to go back to you. Like, we've obviously talked about your affiliation with My Racehorse, but you are also an owner. And I thought Battleborn was like a group, but you're like, it's just me. It's just me. I'm like, oh, it's just the Sarge.
The more the merrier. It is a sole proprietorship. I mean, I've had a few people who have kind of tagged along. A lot of what I've done clearly with Battleborn Racing Stable, and that's the slogan. That's the state slogan. Nevada is considered the silver state, which it is. But it's funny because I remember Ron Ellis one day, he came back from a trip in Vegas and he goes, "Hey, Nick, I just got back from Vegas. Got to ask you a question." He goes, "This Battleborn? I see it all over Vegas. Is that you?" I just laughed. You got Battleborn lawyers, you got insurance companies. But it to me, it rang a bell because going back to the patriotism of my father in the military, and when these babies are born, you wanted to be Battleborn. So I thought it was the perfect name for a racing stable. So one thing kind of led to another. And from the ownership side of things, I'm not really that deep in numbers. Clearly, Michelle, and I've got one of your former horses there in Helatic. He's been a fun horse to own. He likes to run second to some of the other horses in the stable.
He sure does. Yeah. He pays for himself, okay?
Yeah, he does. So when pandemic year kind of was in the funk back in 2021, I had a couple of horses that were up north, brought them down, and then one thing led to another because, the last couple of years it's been an incredible run. 2023. We tied for the owner title in the mixed breed division. I still own the track record holder. He's in New Mexico this week at Tiz Lightning. He just ran out of conditions. He won the summer final, the winter championship. Purses combined. Absolutely. But he was a horse, because I trade horses. I bring horses to California as well. I consider myself a jack of all trades because I'm not afraid to go out and buy a horse for $5,000.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to go out and take a shot and try to advise my racehorse, hey, this horse is a $500,000 horse, but he could be the next coming. So going back to the music thing, I've always took pride in my ability to have some range, playing classical, being a lead trumpet player, but never, ever taking a horse for granted or just assuming that they're going to be something. Because every horse deserves a chance at all given levels. So
it's a good motto. That's something to definitely live by. Sarge, how do you have the time to do everything that you do? I mean, are you like a regimented guy, like schedule? Is it on your iPhone? Like you got to be here. I mean, you're
look, he had to sit in traffic today to get from the airport to Ocala.
How do you do it?
It's funny because I have the ability to multitask, but again, I've got a calendar, but the truth is fortunate. And once again, Michelle can attest because we're both in the broadcasting area, is working with individuals that are willing to accept the fact that we have other jobs as well as what we do for them. So long as what we do for them, we're giving it 100% and we're putting out a good product and giving out good information. And when it comes to TVG, morphed into FanDuel TV and FanDuel Racing now, I've been very lucky. Again, we had a Tony Olivato as a former boss, and then, Kevin Grigsby, who's no longer with us. And of course, Becky Somerville, she's been fantastic.
Yeah.
So I think it's the leniency I'm not a full-time employee there. I'm more of a sixth man, and I think that's what's kind of kept me out of the firing line, if you know what I mean.
Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite?
But then Sarge is working. Sarge works Santa Anita and then makes the trip down to Los Al and covers Los Al at night too.
I want to know who your favorite co-host is.
Favorite co-host, as far as looks goes, probably Mike Joyce. I mean Christina Blacker, right? Okay. As far as just in general, it's pretty flexible, but I would have to say ultimately, Todd's great. I just don't get an opportunity to work with him much, but Todd is the ultimate challenge. I remember the second or third time I worked with him, actually ended up being in the studio one day because I think we had a rain out at Hollywood Park, and he walks in and we had already worked together, and I was like, all right, cool, we're on good terms now. He walks in, I said, hey Todd, how you doing? Didn't say a word. Just kind of hunches down, he sits down his drink, and I said, hey Todd, how's it going? Didn't say a word. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the camera's on. I'm like, what the hell's the deal with this guy? So we immediately go and address, hey, welcome to blank, here we are. We go to a track, and he still hasn't said a word to me, and as soon as we go to break, he looks over at me, points at me, and he goes, I hope you didn't do your heavy lifting yet, because this is all on you. I'm like, what the? So he kind of went into this whole different persona for like the next probably half an hour, and it wasn't comfortable for me.
Right.
But he basically was challenging me. So Todd is great. Dave's probably pound for pound.
Ice cold?
The best. I mean,
ice cold, baby.
And I've had a few, setbacks, health wise. Quite frankly, he was always the first guy to call me. I mean, I think literally if I had a flat tire at 2 a.m, he's probably the only guy who would show up. So, but they're all great. Ashley Mayu has been a pleasure. Jose, when we worked together at Los Alamitos, and Ulysses Gomez, he's doing the work there.
He's doing really good.
Yeah, nice guy, and he just, I think as an on-air person, I think you have to tell the story, right? Anybody can read a racing form, and for me, I just get frustrated when I become just a pure handicapper, because visually, and you know this, Michelle, because you do it all the time, and Billy, I mean, whether you believe it or not, I mean, you've seen enough horses, know the difference between good, bad, or indifferent. So we just try to say what we see, right?
Yeah.
Try to give something that, hey, I wouldn't bet on this horse because this is what I see.
That makes a lot of sense. We've taken up a lot of your time. I'll make this one quick, but
I really want OBS real quick.
I want to talk about OBS. Well, he's got to be up early tomorrow. Well,
they canceled the sales tomorrow. They got rained out.
I want to know what the war room is at OBS, because you already mentioned Joe Moran, who Michelle and I are big fans of. You have yourself, you have Michael. I'm sure you have other team members there. Right. And you're I don't know how to put this. It's not necessarily ego driven, but like when you find a horse that you love and you bring it to the team, and someone else is like, I don't know if we can get that horse. Like, what's that like? You have to be a team player. What's your role in that?
I think that if I were to have one attribute, that to me is the key attribute, is the ability to concede. If you truly like something and someone else doesn't, it's a team, and it's not the money that you're putting up, then you have to accept that fact.
But I'd much rather I told you I was right.
What's that?
You ever said, I told you I was right if that horse goes on to be good?
I think as I've gotten older, obviously when we don't buy a horse that we really wanted, and, obviously I got outvoted, I'll take note. But, as they say, it all comes out in the wash. And I think now that I'm older, and, obviously my son, he's going to be 15 tomorrow, Cash. It's just
Cash.
Kind of hard not being
Happy birthday, Cash.
Yeah, we celebrated today. But I think it comes down to team, because the relationship I've had with Joe, we do have a tendency to see through the same lens, but as he's evolved, he's kind of had his certain, tweaks or certain angles that he likes on a particular horse. Sure. And ultimately, I mean, we've got our Midwest racing manager, Matthew O'Connor, Brian DiDonato, who he does quite a bit for the company just outside of the
pedigree show also.
Right. Yeah. But Brian's been great. We've been friends a long time. He just welcomed a new baby. So, they went from a zone to a man-to-man in that situation, I guess you call it. But I think when it comes down to it, going back to what you had said, what makes my racehorse what they are? And I think trust. I think the ability to trust one another And when we present a list to Michael, clearly, we're still kind of on the experiential side of things. Obviously, in a sale like this, we have marching orders. There are certain trainers that Michael likes better than others. There are certain horses and pedigrees that Michael, will tell us, hey, you need to look at this sire line a bit more. I mean, it's the obvious horses, right? A gray tappet, a curling, along those lines. But for me, that's the pride that I take going back to Straight No Chaser, because the fact that he was by Speedster.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, he died. I think it was that summer after we purchased Straight No Chaser. She essentially carried that flag, but it's like the old dead rock star syndrome. He got hot there for a bit. Get Speedster. But so it really just comes down to the fact that, if you believe in a horse, you have to speak a little louder and with a bit more conviction. But at the same time, it has to be under the, it has to be within the budget. If you look at the numbers, unfortunately, since Wayne passed away, we bought way less horses. We don't quite have the inventory we once had. It's building, based on this last run that we've had over the past year. But we've kind of had to start from ground zero to an extent. We had the baseline because of what Wayne enabled us to build, but now it needs to evolve to a point where, as we all know, you mentioned Eclipse and Aaron Wellman. Aaron Wellman, he's the first guy on a phone when a horse hits the wire to buy that horse. And I don't care at what level, because I've been on the other end of it. So, Aaron is probably one of the sharpest in the game. But again, if you've got a bankroll behind you and you have someone that's willing to bank you, as you well know, with that comes confidence. You go into a sale and like, hey, we're going to go there and buy some nice horses. But it's just been an amazing thing for me personally, because to be involved, considering that we had 2020 that could have been an absolute disaster, but I think pandemic really brought to light.
It might have helped you.
Given a situation, right?
Definitely did. Well, look, I know you have a big week ahead of you. Michelle and I will both be down there next week. Go scout all the good horses, and feel
not
free
all of them.
Let's meet at the bar at the Candlewood.
I tell you what, it's an amazing place. I can't wait for you to get here. Billy, are you going to make it down to the sale, or are you?
Oh yeah, I'm coming on Sunday. I'll be there on Sunday.
Some golf to do first.
I got some. So yeah, we got some golfing to do, and but we'll definitely be there. We're big OBS fans. We have Todd Wojciechowski on the show all the time. Going to be a fun sale. It's always fun to see the babies go.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, in light of the horse game, and I appreciate you two, trying to spread that positivity, but at the same time, I mean, we definitely have to keep it real. I think what we really need to really put first and paramount, I mean, clearly the horses, but the customer base. Who's the customer base? It's the gamblers.
Yep.
And between this, CAWs, I mean, it's obviously been a bloodbath. And we need to get a handle on it because, full crops are dwindling and breeder motivation is lessening. And, unfortunately, when we go to these sales now, everything is so commercialized. I mean, not just obviously the 2-year-olds in regards to the pinhooks, but when you talk about the yearling sales. And we need to change that. I'm hoping the breeders will have a little more motivation, actually race their horses to develop them that way, because it's hard on the animal to do so much with them at a young age. And
absolutely. Well, look, we could have a whole nother discussion on what we need to write. What we'll try to do is just stay off social media. That's just the.
It's impossible for me. I'm all about trying to shine the light, my friends.
I know you do. And by the way, speaking of that, we'll let it go. The New York Times came out with that article. We didn't talk about it, Michelle. Just so you know, Sarge, I don't know if you ever listen to our show. We try to stay out of the politics. We try to stay very positive. But I thought Light Up Racing did a very, very nice job. I don't do a lot on Twitter, but I took their article and I tweeted that out. I think groups like that who are, speaking truths and really taking on institutions like the New York Times with the positives that they have just falsely accused us of. I found that article to be ridiculous, and I thought they did a really nice job. I don't know if you're involved with Light Up Racing. I've done stuff for them, but if you haven't, give it a read. It's pretty cool.
I have read it. And, obviously Christina Blacker, she's carried the torch on that. Mm-hmm. And, Christina is, she's been an absolute godsend for the game. And by the way, we share the same birthday. So June 21st, different years, obviously. But yeah, I think it really, right.
There's so many birthdays.
Who does Dan like better, though? I'm not sure.
Well,
I think we know.
I think we know.
Nick, go get some rest, man. Thanks for joining us, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you in Ocala.
I appreciate you guys. Safe travels.
See you,
God
buddy.
bless. Sweet dreams.
That's the Sarge. That's
Yay. He was so great. I honestly could have had him on for like an hour.
Yeah, we can do it again. We'll do it again.
So
I just know it's late now.
Yeah.
You don't know we had to pause and wait for Nick to get to Ocala. So but Michelle, what's coming up? Anything fun at Santa Anita?
Yes, at the Great Race Place this upcoming weekend. There's going to be racing on Friday. There's no big stakes races on Friday, but we're going to have racing. On Saturday, we have the Beholder Mile, a grade 1 race for fillies. We were talking about B. Wade Hughes. It's actually called the B. Wade Hughes Beholder Mile now. The San Simeon down the hill. That coast to coast wager is going on. That's low takeout, and that is retail customers only, no CAW allowed. And then on Sunday, we're going to have the Pasadena Stakes for 3-year-olds, mile on the grass. And let me think. That's next weekend. Okay. And then the week after, we added a special day of racing on St. Patrick's Day, but that's
fun.
All
right. Special thanks to Nick Hines. Michelle, that was really fun. That
was a fun episode. That was so great.
Episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. We'll try to do something next week. We're going to be on the road. Maybe we'll try to do something from OBS. We'll be
did that before. Remember me, you, and Carrie sat together.
We'll do it. We'll do it. All right. See you later, everybody.